Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2019 NARME Summit. We are so excited you're here. I'm Julie Baumgardner. I'm the board chair for NARME. Hope your morning has gotten off to a great start. I have to tell you about my morning. I got up early and thought I'll go work out just to deal with a little stress. And so I worked out, and Cassie, who's our summit director, who many of you have met, is in the room right next to me. And so after I worked out, ran and grabbed coffee for both of us. I got on the elevator, got to her room, knocked on the door, sent her a text, coffee at your door, no answer. So I'm like, okay, come on, I'm in a hurry. I'm on a really tight time frame. So I knock again, the door opens. It is not Cassie. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I look at the room number. I am on the second floor, which is not our floor. And so I'm like, I am mortified. I'm so sorry. So I go bolting up the stairs, knock on the correct door. I'm like, here's your coffee. And then to top it all off, I came down the elevator, and I'm standing in the lobby with Cassie talking to somebody, and the woman gets off the elevator. And I said, I am that person, and I am so sorry. So that's how my day started. I hope y'all was better than that. But it is so wonderful to see everybody here. We are very excited. As we've talked to people as they've come in, they've said, you know what, we look forward to this because it's like a family reunion. And I would really have to agree with that. 54% of you know exactly what I'm talking about because you've been with us before. So for the 46% of you that are brand new, never been to NARME before, I am thinking that by the end of the summit, you will understand exactly what we're talking about. There are over 29 states represented, including Hawaii this year. Lots of people from the same state, which is super exciting. But we're like a family spread out across the United States doing this work. And while we come together annually to learn and grow and be challenged, we also come for the warmth and encouragement of those walking the road with us who are in the trenches, and they know exactly what we're going through day in and day out. And that's what makes this really special. This summit would not happen without the NARME board members and without our summit director. So I want to introduce to you our board members. We have Richard Albertson right here in front. Could you stand, please? He is in Florida. Jonine McKenzie, right next to him, is in Colorado. Jackie Thomas, where are you? There she is in the back of the room. Jackie's also in Florida, and also she's in the military. And then Deb Wolniak is in Wisconsin, and due to personal extenuating circumstances, she cannot be with us this year. And then our summit director, Cassie Rothermick, there you are, large and in charge. Yes, yes, yes. So we also want to give a big shout out to John Conger over here. Raise your hand, John, stand up. John got all of the volunteers for us for the summit. So if you need something, volunteers have orange on their name badges, and our goal is to serve you while you are here. So please let us know if there's something that we can do to make your stay better. A few housekeeping items. If you'll silence your cell phones, that would be a beautiful thing. Restrooms are out the door to your left and on your right. Tomorrow morning, some of you may not be awake, so really pay attention here. Tomorrow morning at 7:15, we will have a full breakfast for you in this Hermitage lobby area, including coffee, real coffee, and tea. And of course, there's lunch each day. A couple of notes. We have some optional sessions on page 9 of your program. I want to be sure you do not miss this because every single one of these, we should all be there. One is with Scott Stanley tomorrow morning from 7:30 to 8:30 on cohabitation and marriage trends. Thursday afternoon, Public Strategies has a networking event with the Marriage Strengthening Research and Dissemination Center. And then Friday morning, Dr. Judy Cameron, who is She will be speaking to us Thursday afternoon. She is the one who created the Brain Architecture game and has done tremendous work on resilience with children. We'll be speaking about building resilient children in your community, so don't miss those. Summit recordings, for $45, you can access the entire summit. If you signed up for CEUs, be sure you sign in at every session, because we can't go back and sign you in, so just make sure you sign in. Also, we have a photo booth out here at registration. We would like to see lots of people taking photos and posting them on social media. NARME networking will be at BB King's, and it isn't too late to purchase tickets. The transportation is also available, so if you've purchased tickets, you need to pick up your tickets at registration. If you want to purchase tickets, you need to go to registration. It's all at registration. With that being said, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this summit and what's happened in the last year since we've been together. We've experienced the passing of some legends in the field. Ralph Jones, Bernard Gurney, Lori Gordon. And it reminds me that we are standing on the shoulders of many who have gone before us, and they've paved a way forward for all of us to be here today. And for that, we have a responsibility moving forward, that we continue being trailblazers for those who are coming behind us doing this work, family strengthening work. I think you would probably agree that these are tumultuous times in our culture. Since the late 2000s, the mental health of teens and young adults in the U.S. has declined dramatically. A new study published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology showed a dramatic increase in teen suicide, anxiety, and depression. Between 2009 and 2017, rates of depression among kids ages 14 to 17 increased by more than 60%. And the increases were nearly as steep for those aged 12 to 13 at 47%. And for 18 to 21-year-olds, 46%. More than 1 in 8 Americans ages 12 to 25 experienced a major depressive episode, the study found. The same trends held when the researchers analyzed the data on suicides, attempted suicides, and serious psychological distress. Among young people, rates of suicidal thoughts, plans, and attempts all increased, and in some cases more than doubled between 2008 and 2017, the study found. And these findings were based on data collected from 600,000 people. So not a small study. So what's causing this issue with youth today? Why so much anguish? Psychologist Jean Twenge, who's the author of iGen, she talks a lot about this, and she says it's still up for debate, but there's one change that impacted the lives of young people more than older people, and that was the growth of smartphones and digital media, like social media, texting, and gaming. And she talks about, while it's not conclusive, the evidence is consistent. A substantial amount of research has found associations between heavy technology use and poor mental health outcomes among adolescents and young adults. Research aside, parents, teachers, guidance counselors, I was talking to a pediatrician the other day, and she said, bone density, our issues physically with kids, sitting on the couch, doing nothing but texting and gaming, it's going to come back to haunt them and impact them in their young adulthood. So the way young people communicate and spend their leisure time has fundamentally changed, and they spend less time with friends in person, less time sleeping, more time on media. Those of you that were here last year, you heard Warren Farrell talk specifically about the boy crisis. But he hasn't just looked at boys and fatherlessness, he's looked across the board at what is happening with the impact of fathers not being involved in the lives of their children. I thought it was so interesting. One of the things we talked about recently is whether a child is prematurely born or born full term, their children's brains are more likely to develop better, and they are more likely to get out of the hospital sooner and have more psychomotor functioning when the father is visiting the hospital as much as possible. And that's Yale University study. He said the father, this was so interesting to me, the father just breathing on the child when it's first born helps the bonding process to occur and changes the dad's brain. The sooner the father gets involved with the child, a whole nest of neurons in the male brain begin to develop and connect with each other that mimics the mother instinct. Oxytocin levels go up, testosterone levels go down, dads connect emotionally with their children. Yesterday was a momentous day for fathers. For the first time ever, a dad and a baby were pictured on the box of Huggies diapers. It's always been, yeah, whoop, whoop, absolutely. I love that. At the end of 2018, splashed all over social media and the airwaves, you probably saw or heard this headline: Millennials are causing the U.S. divorce rate to plummet. Yep, in fact, divorce is down 18% since the Great Recession. So on the surface, all of us doing this work are like, yes, finally. But when you peel back the layers of what's really going on there, it's good news accompanied by some not so good news. The data from the report does indicate that young couples are looking at marriage differently, which is great. They're marrying later. We'll debate whether that's great. Waiting until they've actually completed their education and found a job. They're also being pickier about who they marry. I had a conversation with Dr. Brad Wilcox at the National Marriage Project about this, and he said, since the 60s, we have seen a dramatic retreat from marriage with more divorce, single parenthood, and unmarried childbearing. The good news is that these trends have slowed in recent years, and some have even reversed. But while he believes that marriage is becoming more stable and adults who are entering marriage are more intentional about commitment, they don't want to make the same mistake that their parents made in the 60s and 70s at the height of the divorce revolution. But the rate of children born outside of marriage has gone down 41% to 39.8%, so that's a modest shift. So the recession is really the first time that we've seen the unwed childbearing trend go down. Many young women and young couples have become more cautious about having children outside of marriage. Now the bad news. Based on the research, we're going to continue to see a decline in marriage for millennials and those coming behind them. They're more cautious. Many of the young men are less accomplished and less appealing as potential mates, and both young men and women are very reluctant to commit. Census figures released in 2018 show the median age of first marriage is now around 30 for men and 28 for women. So while millennials may be holding off on marriage, they are not holding off on living together, which we know. Census numbers indicate that more Americans under 25 live with a partner than are married to one. Let me repeat that. More Americans under 25 live with a partner than are married to one. The second piece of bad news is that it is still the case that about 1 in 2 children born to parents without college degrees will experience family instability. By contrast, only about 1/4 of children born to college-educated parents will see their parents break up. The class divide in American family life appears to be here to stay. Now here's a caveat, and I think this is interesting because we've kind of shoved it to the side and said, oh, we're not going to have discussions about that. But I think it's important for us to look at this. Brad talked about People who regularly attend religious services are more likely to enjoy stable, happy marriages. And he said, specifically, this really makes me think we need to expand our thinking beyond just the socioeconomic factors, because it turns out that religious attendance is about as important as college in predicting marital stability. That's really huge, and we need to be thinking about that. We know plenty of folks who are not college educated who will enjoy good, stable marriages. And one factor that fuels stronger marriage among less educated Americans is an active faith. So we need to be thinking about the fact that we've got a large portion of the population that's not experiencing the benefits of marriage, and it doesn't only impact the couple, we all know that, it impacts children and society as a whole. According to Pew Research, 42% of adults, and let me put a number on that, 102 million, have a step relationship. And when you add 11.6 million stepchildren in the U.S., an estimated 113.6 million Americans have step-kin. Currently, 4 in 10 new marriages involve remarriage. And any couple that's involved in a remarriage can tell you there are definitely complicating factors that go along with remarriage. Extended families, even more extended. Parenting decisions are very complicated. Visitation, custody issues, it just goes on and on. So step families, we've got to be thinking about how are we incorporating into every single thing we do the fact that step families are at the table with us. Some of you might remember when Elizabeth Marcourt spoke to us about the impact of the breakdown of the family on elder care and how step-parents were looking to not their biological children, but stepchildren to care for them. And it was causing a lot of angst. Just recently, Kay Hamowitz, who has also spoken to us, wrote an article in City Journal about the rising number of adults who are literally going at life alone. Nobody to take them to doctor visits or stay with them at home, much less in the hospital. Loneliness is now being called a public health crisis. And at the heart of that is the lack of relationships. A survey conducted by Cigna of more than 20,000 U.S. adults aged 18 years and older found these statistics, and this is alarming. Nearly half of Americans report sometimes or always feeling alone or left out. 1 in 4 Americans rarely or never feels as though there are people who really understand them. 2 in 5 Americans sometimes or always feel that their relationships are not meaningful and that they are isolated from others. 1 in 5 people report they rarely or never feel close to people or feel like there are people that they can talk to. Americans who live with others are less likely to be lonely compared to those who live alone. However, this does not apply to single parents. Their average loneliness score is 48.2. So even though they live with children, they're more likely to be lonely. Only around half of Americans, 53%, have meaningful in-person social interactions, such as having an extended conversation with a friend or spending quality time with family on a daily basis. Are you hearing me? We have an issue. Gen Z, adults age 18 to 22, the loneliest generation. Are we shocked? And their health is worse than the older generations. I hope all of you read Mandy Lynn Catron's article in The Atlantic, What You Lose When You Gain a Spouse. What if marriage is not the social good so many believe and want it to be? If you haven't read it, go to last Friday's NARME e-news, and you can find the link, read the article, and you can also see a response written by Dr. Scott Stanley and posted by the Institute for Family Studies. Must read material for all of us. I could continue on, but I think it's really clear. Our culture is wrestling with some very serious issues. And at the heart of every one of them is relationships or lack thereof. And that is why we are here for the next 3 days. We've only got a little time together, but our hope is that all of us will really hunker down and take advantage of every moment to get equipped, to share with others. I mean, like, there's a serious brain trust in this room. And if we're only hanging out with the people that we get to see every single day, that's a big time no-no. We got to get with each other, and we got to find out what's happening across this country and how we can replicate things that are working so that we can have impact on all of these areas across this country. Now, before our keynote speaker is introduced, we want to acknowledge the work of an individual who has been working in the trenches doing this work for almost 40 years. He began his career in Louisville, Kentucky, and he has always felt a deep commitment to working in his hometown in an effort to enhance individuals' relationships with themselves, their families, their friends, coworkers, and community. His vision for creating immunity to life's negative experiences by investing in and enriching people's connections with others led him to developing an entire evidence-based curriculum that includes the fields of fatherhood, marriage, and family relationships, and it's being used in all 50 states and internationally. He's invested in the development of and mentoring the next generation of leaders in our field. He travels across the state and abroad conducting training, and he continues to serve in his local community and considers that his first priority. I would like you to join me in congratulating Ted Strader as this year's Joseph L. Hernandez Award winner. Would you come on up, Ted? Congratulations. He says to me, I don't deserve it. And I have to tell you, I talked to his wife late last night, and she had been telling me a lot of things about the work that he's doing. But one of the things she talked about is that often people will approach them, homeless people will approach them and ask them for money. And she said, you know, Ted just is opposed to giving them money, but he will take them and feed them and get them what they need. And so she said, and true to form, the other night, as in here while they were doing training, they went out to eat, and sure enough, a young man approached Ted and asked him for money. And he said, and you can hold me to truth here, he said, I can't give you money, but I'll take you in and I'll buy you food. And so he took him in, and she said, he didn't just buy him the meal. Like, he bought him food to take home, which she said is just so Ted. And then the guy said, but I still need $8 because I need to get my driver's license renewed, and it's going to cost me $8. And Ted said, man, I can't give you $8, but I tell you what, let's get a job application here. Let's see if they're looking for people to work. Sure enough. So they get a job application. He says, let's fill out this job application. And then Ted goes to the manager and says, this guy needs to earn $8. If he turns in the job application, will you give him a chance? And the manager said yes. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's Ted, you know? So kudos to you. You may. 2 words.
It's really, really cool to be here. This is my family. This is who we are. This is what we do. And you know, you laid out the pain and the situation. I guess I saw it in the 1980s. And I thought I was trying to do substance abuse prevention. I said, relationships is the key. And we published some of the first results in substance abuse prevention in this nation and around the world, positive results, because it's really hard to change behavior. And behavioral change is what we are about. Relationships is the key to substance abuse, suicide, violence, incarceration, and I have the documented evidence to prove it. And so do you, and so do we. I did it for us. I did it for them. I did it because I'm a dad. We are the fathers and mothers of the country. Let's take care of our populations. Look what goes on with the people who serve our country. Look at our military families. Yep. Let's get our butts in gear. And what I'm about now is national dissemination. We have to broaden our reach. Yes. So I'm presenting about statewide programming here this week, and I want you to think about that. It's great that I'm dedicated to my community, but I'm also dedicated to my country and my larger family. And I know you are too. Thank you so much. This means a lot to me. Thank you so much, Julie.